Welcome everyone. This is the account with a report for day 433 of the war in Ukraine. Thank you for tuning in. Today I have one extra news segment regarding the latest on the Pavlohrad explosion. All other updates are grouped into the usual situation inside Ukraine, the occupied territories, Russia and Belarus, and the international developments. Before we start the news though, the flashpoints along the front. Bakhmut. It is now day 275 of the battle for Bakhmut. Heavy fighting continues amid contradicting reports. Russia claims success inside Bakhmut, while Ukraine reports successes themselves. The reports and the general situation suggests that Ukrainian defenders received reinforcements, putting pressure on Russian forces and forcing them to fall back slightly in some areas. This interesting video was shared on social media, showing the TO504 road leading to Bakhmut. Avdiivka. Russian sources claim that the Ukrainians managed to break through the defense lines south of New York and advance 1.5 kilometers to Novoselivka and Troitske. This has not been independently verified. And to start the news segment, the latest updates on the Pavlohrad explosion. Additional footage from the Pavlohrad explosion was shared online. Due to the geolocated positions of the recordings, it is now pretty much established that the storage facilities at the chemical plant in Pavlohrad were hit. This quite spectacular video was recorded in the same settlement as the video I shared in yesterday's report. In the video, the railway station is located to the far left, while the explosion is taking place more to the right. Here is the corresponding map. The location of this new video and the view angle is marked in blue. Additionally, this fairly close-up video was shared as well online. It was geolocated north of the train station and south of the storage facilities, with the filming direction being to the north. A look at all the minor updates out of Ukraine. President Volodymyr Zelensky has approved the delegation that will participate in negotiations on Ukraine's accession to the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, CPTPP. Ukrainian Defense Minister Oleksiy Reznikov speculated that Moscow is preparing new explanations for future battlefield defeats at the hands of the Ukrainian armed forces. If you observe a number of public statements on Russian resources, Reznikov said in an interview, you can see that there are already phrases like, we must end the special military operation, we must move to defense, we must keep our newly gained territories. Reznikov also stated during the national news telethon that Ukraine has begun the production for some spare parts for Western military equipment needed for repair and maintenance. According to Internal Affairs Minister Ihor Klimenko, the 8 assault brigades that form Ukraine's new offensive guard force are fully formed and will be placed under the command of Ukraine's armed forces after receiving combat missions. The American media outlet Vice News has interviewed Maria Lvova-Belova, the Russian Presidential Commissioner for Children's Rights, who has been issued with an arrest warrant by the International Criminal Court for the deportation of Ukrainian children. Mikhailo Podolyak, advisor to the head of the President's Office of Ukraine, called her words an illustration of cannibalism. The Verkhovna Rada, Ukraine's parliament, has approved the bills for extending martial law and mobilization in Ukraine. Next up, the latest regarding the situation in the occupied territories. According to Ivan Fedorov, the mayor of Melitopol, residents of the Russian-occupied city in Zaporizhia Oblast reported hearing an explosion in the morning. Russian media reported that the Russian-installed deputy head of the Internal Affairs Regional Office in Zaporizhia Oblast was reportedly hospitalized after opening his gate where an explosive device had been planted. Later, Russian state media reported 3 saboteurs had been detained in connection with the explosion and the murder of the deputy head, who died in the hospital. Andriy Cherniak, a representative of Ukraine's defense intelligence, believes that Russia should be cut off from Crimea so that it can finally make a goodwill gesture regarding the peninsula. An explosion rocked the base of the Russian border guards near Simferopol in Russian-occupied Crimea. The explosion reportedly occurred in a former training base for border guards near the village of Shkolnoye, a few kilometers from the Simferopol airport. Moving on to the news updates from Russia and Belarus. Russia currently has 8 warships on combat duty in the Black Sea, one of which is a missile carrier with a total salvo of up to 4 missiles. Regarding the US statement that Russia has lost 100,000 soldiers in the fight for Bakhmut since January 2023, Dmitry Peskov, the press secretary of the Russian president, stated that the United States has no reliable information about Russia's losses in the war against Ukraine. Once again, unidentified persons in Russia's Bryansk Oblast have blown up a railway track, causing a locomotive and 20 freight cars to derail. And to wrap up the news segment, the international developments. In a largely unreported vote at the UN on April 26th, China has voted in favor of a UN resolution acknowledging Russian aggression against Ukraine. While it was a small part of the resolution, it is still a major break from China's usual stance. The UK announced an opportunity for procurement of missiles with a range of 100 to 300 kilometers for Ukraine, according to the website of the UK-led International Fund for Ukraine, IFU. The list of military equipment that the UK plans to purchase for Ukraine within the IFU program by May 4, 2023, includes said long-range missiles with a range of 100 to 300 kilometers. The payload of ammunition should be somewhere from 20 to 490 kilos. The United Kingdom did not send invitations to King Charles' coronation ceremony on May 6 to the heads of Russia, Belarus, Iran, Myanmar, Syria, Afghanistan and Venezuela. The Danish Defense Minister Troels Lund Poulsen announced that Denmark will provide Ukraine with the biggest military aid package to date, worth $250 million. And now for the intelligence report segment, starting with the UK Ministry of Defense. On April 27, 2023, Russian military-linked social media claimed that Russian Deputy Defense Minister Colonel General Mikhail Mizintsev had been dismissed. Mizintsev held the military logistics portfolio and had only been in post for 8 months. Mizintsev's sacking was not immediately confirmed, but speculation about his future highlights how logistics problems remain at the heart of Russia's struggling campaign in Ukraine. Russia does not have enough munitions to achieve success on the offensive. Paucity of ammunition drives internal divisions, most notably between Russia's Ministry of Defense and Wagner Group. Russia continues to give the highest priority to mobilizing its defense industry, but it is still failing to meet wartime demands. While Russia's political leaders persist in demanding success on the battlefield, Russia's logistics professionals are stuck in the middle. A look at the latest assessment by the Institute for the Study of War. Russian forces conducted another large-scale missile strike against Ukraine on the night of April 30th to May 1st. The White House assessed on May 1st that Russian forces have suffered 100,000 casualties, 80,000 wounded and 20,000 killed in fighting for Bakhmut since January 2023. Ukrainian officials continue to signal Ukraine's readiness for potential counteroffensive operations. Wagner Group financier Yevgeny Prigozhin is likely using his rehabilitated standing with Russian leadership to amplify his self-promotion efforts and his long-standing issues with the Russian Ministry of Defense, MOD. The Russian MOD confirmed on April 30th the replacement of Russian Deputy Minister of Defense for Logistics, Colonel General Mikhail Mizintsev, with Colonel General Alexei Kuzmenkov. The Russian MOD opposition faction is likely attempting to remove select MOD officials by publicly criticizing their war efforts. And to wrap up the report, the evening update by the General Staff of Ukraine. The enemy continues to focus its main efforts on conducting offensive actions in the Liman, Bakhmut, Avdiivka and Marinka areas. Units of the Defense Forces of Ukraine repelled more than 20 enemy attacks on the specified areas of the front during the day. The fiercest battles are going on for Bakhmut and Marinka. Our soldiers are steadfastly defending. In the Liman direction, the enemy conducted unsuccessful offensive actions in the direction south of Dibrova. In the Bakhmut direction, the enemy continues to conduct offensive actions. Heavy fighting continues for the city of Bakhmut. In addition, during the day, the enemy conducted unsuccessful offensive actions in the direction of the settlements of Ivanivske and Prelechine. In the Avdiivka direction, the enemy carried out unsuccessful offensive actions in the area of Pervomaiske. In the Marinka direction, our defenders repelled numerous enemy attacks in the Marinka area during the day. In the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine, there are still cases of violent abduction of the pro-Ukrainian civilian population, as well as the construction of new torture camps for their detention. In particular, Russian terrorists set up one of these torture chambers in the police department of the temporarily occupied Chaplinka of the Kherson Oblast. Up to 10 civilians, including minors, are being illegally detained there at the moment. The Russian occupiers keep people in harsh, inhumane conditions and torture them. There are cases when kidnapped people were tortured to death by Russian terrorists. And that wraps up today's report. If you're interested in any of the articles I mentioned, you can find links to them in the description as usual. If you enjoyed the report and found it informative, please consider sharing it with others and giving me a like. Thank you for tuning in and have a great day. You were listening to The Account. Slava Ukraini.